I'm Mike Schneider. I'm the CMO of BevNET, Nosh, and Brewbound. And some of you might know me by my voice because I'm on the Taste Radio podcast. And I'm here with Tero Isokauppila from Sigmatic. He's the founder of Sigmatic. And we're going to talk today about growing your Amazon business like mushrooms. And we'll leave some time to take a few questions. But first we're going to start off with some background on Tero and Sigmatic. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for doing it. Is the voice okay? Is the mic okay? Great. Awesome. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to share some of my learnings around e-commerce and Amazon. We're mostly going to focus on Amazon, I guess, but if there's any e-commerce questions, they're in some ways very similar. I'm a 13th-generation family farmer out of Finland, but doesn't probably help with this Amazon conversation much. My background in online marketing started growing up in Nokia, Finland. So I started developing in the early 90s on my computer, and so I guess you could say I'm a little bit of a tech-savvy person growing up. And between my companies, I did e-commerce for one of the largest websites in the world back in the day, and my MBA thesis was around how to sell food and beverages in the US online. So I know a little bit about it, but most of the things I've learned is through practice. For Sigmatic's revenue, about 80% of it comes online. So we do both. E-commerce is larger for us, so direct to consumer, but also we have a couple Amazon bestsellers. So we have Amazon's the best-selling instant coffee, often one of the best-selling hot cocos, which is pretty outrageous because it's mushroom hot cocoa and mushroom coffee, and you would think is like, how would anybody buy it and find it online? But there are ways how we build our brand on Amazon. So hopefully share some of those lessons with you guys today.
So, Tero, you said you started off as you were a farmer, 13th generation farmer, and so you've got all this sort of experience from mobile space in Nokia, Finland. What would you go back and study now if you had it to do over again?
Probably philosophy or psychology, but for business purposes, I think having basic understanding of economics and computer science definitely helps. You don't need to become an expert at it, but if you can study just the fundamentals on how computers and technology work, that really helps. And in commerce specifically, mathematics. I know those might not be any of the sexiest fields to study, computing science or math, but they definitely help. So hopefully I can simplify some of the ways how you can grow stuff online today, which is useful for any one of you. But at the end of the day, those would be very helpful for what I do today.
Let's talk about what you think makes a good product for direct-to-consumer to start, and then also what makes a good product for Amazon?
Yeah, so normally people focus on shelf life, cost of shipping, but I think there's a lot of proof of like Daily Harvest selling frozen foods online. And I think today it's easier and easier to sell anything online, from houses to cars to any kind of food and beverage product. Sure, refrigerated products are a lot harder, heavier products are a lot harder. So maybe kombucha would be the hardest case to sell online, but even today with be it Amazon Pantry or various food providers, it's getting easier and easier. So I would say you can sell anything online today. But what makes a great product is that you have to adjust to consumers' behavior, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons. So I think one of the main challenges with e-commerce or Amazon for most food and beverage entrepreneurs is first shifting the mindset and then after shifting the organization's mindset. And one of the big challenges that I find that many people have in e-commerce is that they focus only on sales and they don't look at the whole funnel or the whole consumer experience. And what I mean with that is they focus on just Amazon as a comparable sales channel to Walmart or Whole Foods or Kroger, whatever. And instead they should look at as an R&D method. So if you, for example, make a product, so let's assume Chris Hunter at Koya here is making a new product, I would go on Amazon and I would look at what are the protein flavors that people are already buying, what are their sales volumes. So instead of coming with an obscure flavor like raspberry pear, going and figuring out what are the flavors that people are already searching for. But Amazon, for example, is a query-based platform, so people search. It's like dum dum dum, you search for something, and I can tell you that a lot of people didn't search for mushroom coffee or mushroom hot cocoa, so you have to figure out how do you adjust it, and there are many ways how you can adjust it, but the best thing is using online, be your e-commerce or Amazon, as a full funnel where you start with R&D, and you use it in customer service, use it in also the same way as you. My favorite thing is, one of my tips is 3-star review. If somebody trashes your product, 1 star, they could be a hater. If they give you 5-star, there's not a lot of lessons there. The 3-star user really wanted to love you, but there was something there, packaging, flavor, efficacy, price point, pack size, whatever it may be, great feedback that you can then use. And then when you hit the right product market fit, the product really moves at huge scale. But I think that one of the challenges is just looking at top line dollar is a big mistake, because you have all this data available for other parts of the business.
Okay, slow down a second here. So you have a new product going to the market. It's requiring a lot of education. So what do? Throw a shit ton of money against awareness, or give all your money to Shut the Kale Up and everything will be okay, like some influencer? What do you have to do?
Every product is different, obviously, because what's the bottleneck? What's the friction point of consumers loving your product? It could be a lot of things. If it's price point, you have to educate why your product is better than other products, assuming that you can't lower the price point, obviously, or make a pack size. On Amazon, for example, we sell our products in many sizes for different target audiences. Some people buy a lot and they get a discount, and there's ways to go around on price point. But I would say, I'll take an example of our mushroom coffee. Nobody looked for mushroom coffee before it became a bestseller. It's easier to become a bestseller on Amazon in a smaller category than it is to become a bestseller in a big category. But when you get that bestseller tag, the velocities go up a lot, right? So how do we get a bestseller tag for mushroom coffee? It's such an obscure product. We went and looked at the small categories, and a few years ago, one of the categories was cold brew and concentrates. Okay, so cold brew was an up and rising category on Amazon, and we found out that a lot of people search for cold brew, but there was not a lot of cold brew brands yet on Amazon. And because our product was instant coffee, it's technically a concentrate, so we put our product on a cold brew and concentrate category. And we just made sure that we won all the cold brew products. And suddenly we had the best-selling cold brew and concentrate product. And everybody who searched for cold brew on Amazon found mushroom coffee. And we had a lot of great reviews. And then suddenly sales went up. So you can also look at category management online as a way to grow your brand, and figuring out where categories you can win and what are the categories where you will probably not yet win.
So you talked about reviews, and it seems to be a pretty important thing in terms of Amazon. What do? Just go, buy a bunch of reviews, get some bot platform to put good reviews out there for you?
That's probably the worst mistake you can do. Amazon is getting really good at spotting them.
I thought it was a great idea.
You have to have real reviews. Obviously, you can get your friend and families to review it in the beginning if you want to do that, but generally speaking, you just have to have a good product. So I think it's more important first review what are the category sales in given products, what are your competitors selling. By the way, that's very easy to figure out. So if I want to find out what SKU or what product is selling, there's many tools how you can use that and find out, and then make a product that people actually want to buy, and then get a product that will get good reviews. And if you don't get good reviews, reply to every one of them, and then adjust the product flavor or functionality that whatever they commented on to make it better.
So what happens if you get a really a bad review or a series of bad reviews? You just go cry in your office, or what's your strategy?
It's actually really useful because it creates credibility. A lot of people on their own website only have positive reviews, and it's actually proven that conversions are better if there's some bad reviews there as well. So it's really important that you reply to each bad review, offer money back, say that we worked on fixing this thing that you were unhappy with. Either way, a lot of people, when they go and look for a product, they look at the best reviews and the worst reviews, and that's one of the reasons how they figure it out.
So you obviously need to have a customer experience competency there. How do you build that out from scratch, and what are the what's important about a customer service experience?
Yeah, like I said, the biggest challenge with people growing their Amazon or e-commerce business is first changing their own mindset to more a digitally savvy or digitally focused mindset, which includes that you track a lot more data. You're more data-driven than you are just in retail. You get data late, or you get limited data, or you have to buy data, yada, yada, yada. Here you almost too much data, and kind of sorting that out and using that knowledge to build a better company, better business. And I think then the second hardest challenge is changing the mindset of your company culture. And one of them is related to customer service. Don't think of a customer service as a cost center of just like kind of handling what comes out. It's a huge upsell platform. It's a huge education platform. It's a huge R&D platform. it serves so many other functions. So I would not be cheap on customer service. I would not outsource my customer service, and I would have the customer person service report to somebody senior. Like, don't bury it under the COO somewhere in the bottom as a cost center. Have it under the CMO or somebody who focuses on product development as well.
CMO. What about discovery of your product? Driving trial, for instance. I mean, you can't demo to people on Amazon. So what's the secret there?
Yeah, actually, we have Amazon tips at we made a lot of slides. How to win on Amazon. The best thing about Amazon right now is that Amazon used to have really kind of Amazon savvy Amazon hackers that built brands that only existed on Amazon, and they were much better at it than you are or I am usually. And they would build these brands and sell tens of millions of dollars of socks or random food products or supplements, and they still do exist, but more and more Amazon is moving to a place where only brands that also live off the platform win. So right now is actually a great time to enter Amazon if you don't yet have a great Amazon business, as long as you build the brand off platform. That's the only way to sustainably win on Amazon, is having a brand live also either in retail or some other location. So the really important part is to do also stuff outside of Amazon, just versus building it only on that anymore. So.
Okay, so you need to build up for Amazon, but you also need to roll your own. What are the advantages of having your own e-commerce platform? And I mean, how do you even go about setting that up?
Again, easier than it's ever been. A lot of people use kind of pre-built platforms like Shopify that I can highly recommend as well. But why would you have your own e-commerce platform? Is margin, full access to data for free, and then the speed and agility of making decisions. So, for example, for Sigmatic is an omni-channel brand. So we sell at Whole Foods, Sprouts. We're the first food product ever to go in Sephora. But when we launch a new product, we first launch it to our Shroom Club, which is a private Facebook group of about 16,000 people. We look at the reception there. And then we adjust our marketing messaging based on the Shroom Club. Then we launch it on our email list, which is of multiple hundreds of thousands of people. We look at the results. Then we start Facebook marketing. Then we start affiliate marketing. And along the way, as we get to a larger and larger audience, or you could say also from a really warm audience to colder and colder audience, we adjust the messaging. And with e-commerce, we constantly have the agility to make adjustments on our product pages, our product communication, our messaging, our price point, and use that data to make the product before we take the big bet and pay slotting fees or free fills to go to retail. So the products we take to, not every product will go to retail, but the ones we will go are they're more likely to succeed as well because we use the data along the way. And the further you go, the bigger the audience gets, but the colder it gets. So you also want to kind of validate your 4 Ps of marketing: product, place, promotion, price, along the way before you take those big bets.
Let's talk a little bit about the data that you can, what you can learn about, users through both their online behavior and then information that you collect from them. What sort of demographic and psychographic information do you collect from your consumers, and then how do you couple that with behavioral information like web data?
I think I said this at Project Nosh maybe 2-3 years ago, and I still don't think people have fully grasped the concept. I say is that if you focus on demographic data of location, age, gender, and that's the only decision to make target audiences, you're out of your mind. Like, the world doesn't operate that way anymore. Like, there's so much more psychographic data. It's like, hey, besides looking at, I'm targeting women age of 45 to 55 who live in Midwest, like looking at what are the stuff that they also love. Because there's many kinds of 45 to 55-year-old Midwest women out in the in the world, and you got to look at like what kind of music they like, who do they follow for influence, what are other products they're buying, what are their values, because the value base and looking at that is more valuable. And especially because of Facebook, which is by far the best platform to get this data, you can build lookalike audiences where you find who's exactly your customer and then use their platform to find all the people that fit that scope. And so behavior models are more important than psychographics or behavior models are more important than demographics.
Does that translate one-to-one? So the ideal customer on your website is also the ideal customer on Amazon, so you can analyze the behavior, make demographic and behavioral profiles, and then use that information to scale on Amazon, which is, presumably a larger opportunity than your website.
Of course not. It kind of is a continuum though. So there's an overlap, but it's not a perfect overlap. So for example, on Amazon, you can sell a lot more Keurig products, K-cups and stuff, but they are not as good in ground coffee. So there's category-related data on the platform. I just personally think that Amazon is going to eventually win in all of them, but there's a continuum. But when I move from, for example, from Whole Foods to specialty or specialty to premium grocery, to mainstream Walmart, then to club, they're not the same consumer either, but there is a continuum. So if you build your brand in natural and then from specialty to grocery to club to drug, there's a continuum, but they're not a perfect overlap. That's why you go to new sales channels. The same online. There is an overlap between Amazon and most e-commerce customers, but it's not a perfect overlap. And that's why you actually want to go there, because there's consumers that only buy on Amazon.
I want to talk about the funnel. Is the first and foremost, is the funnel, which would be, awareness, consideration, all the way through down to, someone becoming a customer, and then what happens afterwards is another part of the funnel. Obviously, you've got retention, you've got, loyalty plays, and then win back in there as well. So we'll just complicate everything. But is the Amazon funnel the same as the Sigmatic.com funnel?
Generally speaking, yes. Actually, at lunch, we're talking with Mike Burbank here about that all businesses are the same. If you have a car dealership or if you're selling beverages on Kroger, it doesn't matter. It's the same 4 numbers that you have to kind of manage. Traffic or footfall is the first one. Second is velocity or conversion. So the same way as like how many doors you're in retail or how good of a shelf category you're in depends how many eyeballs your product sees. So if you have a beverage sitting on the shelf, how many people actually see that beverage or visit that store, and how many stores you're in. Same way online is, where do you get your traffic? Is it Facebook affiliates, whatever? How many people see that traffic? And then you have the conversion or the velocity. How many people grab the product from the shelf and buy it? Or how many people click on the product and actually purchase it? The same thing, it's just different names. And then the cart size or average order value, and then the repeat purchase rate. So if you know how to do business in retail, you'll know how to do business online. It's just slightly different words and slightly different levers, but it's the same model. So in all of Amazon and e-commerce, it's the same funnel. You might emphasize different things though, because in our e-commerce, you can control more of the funnel, you can create more value, you have their email, you can email them more often, you can educate them, you can automate them. Whereas Amazon obviously protects their platform a little more, so there's more controls. Why can you email them? What can you say to them? And kind of further you down in that process, the less you own the customer, so to say, own the customer.
How do you market to, let's be very specific for a second. How do you market to someone who's abandoned a shopping cart without being creepy?
It's all about adding value. I think that's also a misconception, is like a spammer. So like, most websites have a pop-up when you visit the website. It's like, hey, leave your email, People generally say they hate that. I don't know how you feel about, you go to a website, boom, it's like, that's so annoying. We get tens of thousands of emails from that every month. And every email is actually worth quite a lot of revenue immediately. And people initially think you shouldn't do that because that's spamming. But what if you offer value? With us, we draw a free product every 24 hours. Leave your email. We're going to give you a discount for your next purchase. You can unsubscribe anytime. You also can win a product. And they foresee that there's not that many people describing every day, so their odds of winning are pretty high. And then also, only every 4th email tries to sell you something. 3 emails in a row tries to educate and offer beyond our own products. But try to offer value. And same with the cart, is if you can offer value, if somebody put stuff in the cart, there's a reason why they didn't buy. We usually try to call or contact all of them. You can automate that as well, but the best is a human being is like, hey, I saw that you put stuff in your cart. How can we help? You can say, if you already have survey data to understand why would be the biggest reason why they wouldn't buy, like price or something, free shipping, you offer them a free shipping code. So again, it's a little bit company specific, but the most important part is that you add value, and that way you can win it back without being a spammer.
And the other thing here, just to give Tero a quick break here, is, and I've done this in the tech world, which is very similar to direct to consumer food and beverage, is when you go out to collect information, demographic information, psychographic information, pair it up with an offer and do a little bit at a time. You're not going to be able to boil the ocean and get somebody to fill out a 10-page survey as much as you'd like them to. So, ask for information here and there, and don't penalize them for not giving it to you, but reward them if they do give it to you. So let's talk a little bit about, discovery and being discovered either on Amazon or, via Google or whatever way you're discovered. First and foremost, what is the path to optimization, especially for a brand that is building a new category?
There's, again, I think quite simplistically, but for every brand, there's 3 types of media. Actually, my master thesis was partly on this, but there's paid media, there's earned media, and owned media. Most people focus on paid media, and this is, by the way, the same in retail. You pay an ad, you go to a magazine, or you do something else where you pay money for visibility and eyeballs. And I think the 2 other models in online, you have more opportunities in earned media and owned media. Earned media often is related to PR. Most PR don't move the needle. We've been on Vogue probably 8 times. We've been in Forbes multiple times. Most of those, we were on the front page of Time magazine and we got like 200 clicks. So they say you get 12 million visitors a day or something. Like we definitely didn't get 12 million visitors. Then there's exceptions, like BuzzFeed does really well for us because it's maybe a more online, digitally native platform where people like to click stuff versus something like a highbrow magazine. But earned media can also be influencers. We work with tons of podcasters, which is sometimes earned opportunity, sometimes it's paid opportunity. But I think the influencer marketing is also misunderstood in social media a lot. A lot of people end up paying there. You don't have to pay anybody. A lot of the best stuff that people promote are free. So as long as you build a relationship with influencers and you provide them other sorts of value and they truly love the product, you don't necessarily have to pay. And then the own media is blog posts, YouTube videos, content on your own social media. And all of these can serve as a digital discovery platform. You could end up being, I know plenty of brands have hit 8 figures in revenue, have not spent $1 in marketing, in paid media marketing, by just optimizing on earned and owned. The real answer is probably you want to optimize between those 3, depending on your life cycle. There's time in your company's life cycle when you probably want to be higher in paid media. And there might be a life cycle in your company when you want to be higher in earned or owned. The earned and owned usually end up, especially the earned media, ends up improving conversion. So if you have a lot of press hits or a lot of influencer attention, the traffic then used for paid media ends up converting better. And then the longer you've had the business, the more you want to have the owned media, because the owned media, the media platform, is the most valuable. That's why Red Bull has a media house. They're building their own media, and that's the end. But it's the hardest to do. So usually you end up kind of playing more between earned and paid at first. But I would always dedicate part of my time and resources for owned media as well.
So I want to go back to something that you just said about influencer marketing and saying you don't have to pay for it, you can do it organically. That's kind of the early social media, early days of social media model where you had somebody with a lot of clout, like, a Gary Vaynerchuk. You'd send him some stuff and he'd talk about it for nothing. But that's really counterintuitive now. So what do you just like DM Lee from America and be like, hey, you want some coffee or what? How does that work?
Yeah, I think Lee from America talked about us for free. I think Gary Vaynerchuk talked about us for free. So I think those 2 examples that you gave both talked about us for free. But there's so many other value. Like for us, it's a lot about education, caring for them, building personal relationships. So somebody in the team who is not necessarily senior enough, but like lives the brand, will be having personal relationship with those. It's kind of like the handshake, hug, hang model that could also work in retail. Is like, how well do you know your buyer? Is it when you meet the buyer, you're going to shake their hand? Are you going to hug them? Or are you going to go out for a beer with them? It's the same with the influencer. What's your relationship with the influencer? Is it a handshake, hug, or a hang? And that's also a way to kind of dedicate, is like how long you've known them. And again, it depends on the product, what you're offering to, who you're offering it to. But I think when you find the right audience and it's an organic fit, I definitely don't think you need to pay. And also, the bigger the influencer, the more likely the money doesn't actually matter.
So you have a very So you're multi-platform. You're running experiments across channels. How do you know what's working? Do you need to have like a room full of data geeks doing multivariate analysis and drinking Mountain Dew, staying up 24 hours to figure out like which influencer is moving the needle for you, or do you run more controlled experiments? I mean, I would assume that a company of your size who's moving very fast isn't controlling for one variable at a time. I mean,
It's very hard, and I think probably a lot of you can relate if you sold in multiple retail channels and you do general brand marketing, is like what's the attribution and what's the impact to any of your retailers. It's no different online. Even though you have more data and you can track a lot more things that you can in retail, it's still at the end of the day you'll come to an attribution problem. So depending on your size and your marketing budget, I think measuring, like we measure blended CPA, so like cross the channels, or blended return on advertising spend, which basically means that we just look at all the marketing spent across the channels on online and look at how many customers we acquired with that money, and you kind of build a blended average. It's not perfect, but it gives a little bit of an indication. We do also track per channel, but we also acknowledge that part of that traffic will leak elsewhere. Like one of our big partners are like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss. So if they talk about the product, we're trying to drive all the traffic to our website, 100%. But we also noticed that about 20 to 30% of that traffic will go to Amazon. And it's just a bonus. It's hard to attribute for it. But if the initial first purchase on your own website or your measurable traffic is already exciting enough, then you should the rest is kind of a bonus. But it's definitely a challenge. And I don't think you should hire a data scientist in-house. I think there's a lot of tools that now are quite inexpensive to track some of that. And you just need to be close enough, and you need to see improvement overall on a blended average.
Do you think in terms of online metrics, do you know what CAC is, and do you know what your CAC is?
Yes. If you don't know, you're in the wrong place. And if you as a CEO don't know, you're in the wrong place. I track our performance daily basis. And I think if you look at yours in weekly, monthly, or quarterly, you're lost.
CAC is cost to acquire. So let's talk a little bit about go back to the funnel for a second and just talk about the metrics that you should be looking at through the funnel, and just how to set one up. I mean, you're looking at awareness down through to, acquiring a customer, and then there are more advanced things after that, like the loyalty play. You have a lot to deal with in terms of, customers leave, and that's churn, and you need to do win back campaigns, or you can let them go and acquire a new one. You got to figure out which one's more expensive for you. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, obviously now we get to the point of like what's your margin structure, how much capital you have at use, what's your targets for sales. It's very specific, is like how aggressive you want to be. There's a lot of companies that grow really fast, but their overall business model is not sustainable. But putting that aside for a moment, I think if you have an online team or a marketing team, you need to kind of look at the funnel in 4 steps. You want to have a brand phase, which is generally just awareness, eyeballs, traffic, just getting that. Then you have the acquisition, or when you hit that you're converting the customer to the first purchase. Then you have a loyalty or retention program where you try to get this. The most important purchase is actually the second purchase, not the first purchase. You can get the first purchase quite easily. Even when we launch a product, we wait 45 days to look at the data, how many people bought the second time. Because you might have a great price point, great value proposition, but if the rest is BS, then you never get the second purchase. So brand acquisition or kind of conversions. Then you have loyalty or retention, or when you monetize the customer, and then you have customer care, which is another way how you can upsell and maintain long-term brand relationships. So there's those 4 phases. It's not going to happen in one funnel, honestly. It's usually one funnel only tends to focus on one thing, such as converting the customer. When you get their email, like we have a Mushroom Academy online, which is a free online e-learning course. You can go and learn about all kinds of things mushroom. You leave your email, you're in our funnel, or leave our email on the front page, you're in our funnel. The goal of that funnel is to convert you with the right brand expression, right education. So it's not just about money, it's also about education and brand expression. But the goal of that funnel is not retention yet. It's after you bought once, because actually I would say is like, what's the best time to buy a pair of jeans is when you just bought a pair of jeans. You bought a pair of blue jeans, now you need a pair of black jeans. So it's also then right after you made that purchase, you want to start the retention, because the moment when you file your credit card and you make that purchase, that's the best time to sell you more. So if you just bought $50 worth of ginger shots from Malibu, maybe then you sell another $50 worth or $150 worth, because you feel good, you got that dopamine rush of that purchase, then you want to sell them more. So it goes in phases, but you always want to have the next step in mind when you close the previous step.
Before we open up to questions, I think we should talk a little bit about subscription and what you think about subscription models, how you introduce subscription model. Well, first of all, how do you think about subscription from a Four Sigmatic perspective?
I think every brand should have a subscription strategy. It doesn't mean you start with subscription, but if you don't have a subscription model, I think you're losing an opportunity. And by the way, it doesn't mean that every customer of yours should have a subscription. So our story is that 3 years in, we tried subscription and it failed. The reason was that we were just launching in the US and we were trying to get Americans to drink mushrooms, which is an outrageous thought. And if you don't drink mushrooms and you don't know why you would ever drink mushrooms, why would you subscribe to it? Like that just makes absolutely no sense. But after you've acquired like hundreds of thousands of customers and there's enough people who already love it and buy it regularly, then the subscription business is meaningful. For us, it means over 3 times higher lifetime value for a subscription customer. Even if they churn at one point and they leave, it's still over 3 times more valuable customer for us. So I think every company should have a plan. If you don't have a subscription, then when are you going to have a subscription, or who you're going to have the subscription to? And by the way, it doesn't matter if your product is refrigerated. You should still sell to your biggest customers or best customers and sell them the product. And just saying is they love you and they're always going to buy you, I think it's a huge cop-out. Like people forget all the time. I forget all the time. Like, oh, I love a lot of brands, but I forget to buy them. If they would be on subscription, that's great. And by the way, Amazon makes it easier than anyone else. So Amazon subscribe and save percentage of your Amazon business is a good indicator how healthy your business is on Amazon. So I would say you should be 30% or higher on your subscribe and save business on Amazon, depending how fast you're growing. Obviously, if you're growing fast, usually your subscribe and save is a little bit lower. But for most businesses, I would say you want to be at least over 20%, ideally 30, 40% of your Amazon business should be subscribe and save.
We've got some time for questions, comments, and ridicule. We take them all. Anybody? Question? Come on. You got...
How do you find an influencer that's on your same wavelength?
The question is how to find an influencer that's on your wavelength or good for your brand.
The best is when they find you. It's kind of like dating in that way, but like it would be best if they would reach out to you. So they would post about you, they would reach out to you, you would find that they like the product, and then you go out of the way. Most of the biggest celebrities we work with, I don't know how they found our product. We heard that they used it, then we kind of track them down and send them stuff. Like Kristen Wiig is an actress, comedian, and he was on a YouTube or TV show with Jerry Seinfeld, comedians in cars saying, I love mushroom coffee. And then we tracked her down and keep sending her more stuff all the time.
Like you showed up at her doorstep, or?
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, we don't pay her or anything. I don't think she would
guys
even
awake?
care about that. But the point being is, ideally they find you. The other way to go, if you're just getting started, you don't have that halo effect yet, go to places where your target audience or your core audience spends time. I spend almost every day at Erewhon hanging out at like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. I'm there all the time. So anyway, find wherever your core audience is. Maybe it's in a NASCAR race. Maybe it's in, new mothers conference about diapers. I don't know. But you just want to go there and be part of that community or figure out, also you can do this online, is if you know one person who really loves you, figure out what's their connective tissue and kind of like go through that, find who are they friends with.
Why do you have to bring up NASCAR, bro? You know about my history with NASCAR?
No, I used to race cars as well, don't worry.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's not a pun.
All right, question here.
Tero, you're advertising across a lot of different podcasts. Are you able to get attribution, or how do you look at your ad spend when you're like in multiple?
Yeah, we have a unique code. So the podcast host has a code like so-and-so 10 or whatever code, and they can use it on checkout. There's also a unique link that we can track. It doesn't track all the purchases. Like I said, maybe they go to Whole Foods and buy it and we don't know about it, but that's like the bonus that we kind of don't account for. But so there's a link and there's a code and we track that. And as far as the verticals go, my best tip, if your product lends itself to podcast marketing or interested in trying it, don't use podcast networks. Work directly with the host. Don't tell them what to say. That sucks, does not convert and work. Tell whatever you want. Just say it in your own words, and that works. Authenticity and the relationship with podcast hosts have with their audience, you want to just be part of that relationship by letting them speak in whatever language they do. So
We do like talking points, though, as a podcast host. We like, if you give us a little bit and give us some leeway with.
And they all ask for that, and we say we're not giving it to you, except the code. But like, it really forces them to speak in their own language. They all want it though.
Guess
They're
what
like,
I'm gonna
tell me
do?
what to say, because they don't want to work for it.
I'm going to his about page, and I'm not going to read it, but I'll figure something out.
But whatever is better than you giving them a spiel of like, say this, it's a great product, 18 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar, whatever. Like, let them say what they love it. And my kid loves it, and I actually hated it first, but then the more I had it, I really felt good in my body. Whatever they say, let them say it. And that
Like I said,
will always,
this about
I
your
think,
product.
convert better than you telling them what to say. Like, they're smarter about their audience than you are about their audience.
On that same note, are you providing a incremental monetization strategy to the influencers that says if you hit a certain benchmark or critical mass of posts on the product that you'll get X amount of dollars? Are you incentivizing them to speak for your brand?
So are we incentivizing our influencers on beyond a certain threshold, they get more and more stuff? Yes and no. There's many kinds of influencers. Our best success has been with the hybrid influencer that is part earned, part paid. Paid media tends to be a fixed fee. I would stay away from the fixed fee unless you know they crush it for you. So fixed fee is like, hey, pay me 10 grand and I blast my email list of 100,000 people, whatever it is. I would stay away from that. Some people have a commission model. Obviously, affiliate marketing is a big thing. It's performance-based, so they only get paid if they sell X amount. That's really good because there's low risk for you. I think usually the best success we've had within the paid space, if normally we don't pay influencers, but there are certain people who have a media platform like a podcast or email list, and we do a hybrid where we pay for certain stuff, but we also encourage them to do earn stuff. But to answer your question, it's either fixed or a percentage of revenue is the most common model.
Tero, thanks so much for being here, and thanks for letting us grill you. And you're going to stick around for a bit so you can ask you some
Yeah, I'm
questions?
here today and tomorrow, so if you want to chat, just come talk to me.
Thanks, everybody. Round of applause for Tero.